Ms. Shravanti Lanka, who is the Senior Director at S&P Global. कम क्यों हो जाती है? Mr. Ramesh Dham, who is the Senior General Manager, Digital and IT at Coromandel International Limited. And to moderate this session, we have Ms. Divya Sharma, who is the Senior Director for Product Management at Salesforce.
Hello. 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 All right. Welcome to DIC 2026, where we move beyond the buzzwords and get into the engine room of agentic AI. So today we will be diving into the heart of accelerating digital-first industries, where we explore a world that moves us beyond simple automation and gets into innovation, infrastructure, and intelligence that actually thinks, learns, and scales alongside us. So today we have this wonderful panel here that will help us map the blueprint of how we can get on board to this historic transformation to agentic world. I want to understand quickly with a show of hands, how many are from the tech side? Can I see a raise of hands? Tech side. All right, how many people from product business? Product business, please raise your hands. All right, good to see a good participation from tech. Thank you, folks. So first thing, let's start with our first question. Yeah, I'll prefer. I'll prefer. All right, our first question is, how has the definition of digital-first industry changed over the past 5 years? And Vivek, why don't you start us on this one?
Okay, I'll try. So first of all, warm afternoon, Vanakkam, Namaskar, and Walaikum Assalam to each and everyone. So I had a sort of a promise and a deal with Mr. Sanjeev and Senthil Saab from the NASSCOM team that as excellent was the lunch, so good would be the bows and the momos and the lovely pancakes and the waffles just after this session. So I'm sure we may not like to miss that, but the deal depends on a number of factors. So as I am more honored today than any one of you, sort of to learn from you, so I would say the digital first is something like the recent World Economic Forum 2026 Davos. It was not WEF, it was more about World Digital Forum. And while we say that, the BRICS Nation report as well as the Davos report clearly brings out the future of the nations in 2030 will not be governed by the size of the armies. That would be governed and enunciated by the honesty and the strength of the digital innovations. So primarily, the wars of 2045 to 2055 will not be done on the battlefield alone. They will be done behind the war rooms. And while we say that, it has to be enunciated and kind of a fulcrum to be put up, what is the so-called autonomy and where we want to strive a balance between autonomy and human productivity. See, autonomy is also a very fine example. I think it was last week, I gave instruction to one of our agentic AI robots that please have the so-called inbox efficiency maximized for my email route. And that particular it, I would not say he or she, that particular it was so over smart that that particular it or idiot even declined my meetings of appraisal with my boss. And believe me, it's not a fun element to have a doubt without the appraisal meeting on the lovely numerical part of the bonus in which all of us are standing in. So primarily it says autonomy is okay, but it has to be mapped by the lovely standards of Adam and Eve, because the chemistry also works well of the love and affection only when people are meeting together face to face. It cannot be happening, oh, my phone is mute or my screen is locked and behind the virtual wall. So primarily, Divya correctly mentioned, digital first is the demand, digital first will flow, but it has to be governed by the nice, lovely guardrails of if and what backed by the problem statement. Thank you.
That sounds wonderful. But transitioning to this agentic world, being an agentic organization, it's a major paradigm shift, right? So what are the core components of the blueprint for this transition to be successful? And maybe, Ramesh, if you can start off us on this one.
Thank you, Divya. And very well foundation made by Vivek. So now everybody knows like digital is a demand. So it is not like somebody want to do something in a company. It is actually coming from the top chairman, CEOs, CXOs, like they are asking now I need AI into my business. So as rightly said, if demand came, so everybody's expectation also increased. But for making the foundation of digital, that foundation should be very strong. So I'll give one example like, okay, if you want to make a strong foundation, first you have to focus on the data layer. So when we ask about data, like how data layer will come, so I just tell people like, okay, focus on 3D principle. So what are these 3D? D, data capture at source. So wherever data is generating itself, you capture that data there itself. It should not be like somebody else is taking data into their notes, then it is he or she is putting that into some logbook, from there it is converting to Excel, from there it is converting to some database. It should not be there. So the first D is capture data at source. The second D is dematerialization, remove any paperwork. So data, when you are capturing at source, it should be captured in a digital way only. And the third thing is, whenever you take data, you are taking the document, but it should be data-based. So it should not be in Excel or in some other format. It should be data-based. So 3D format. So now with the help of these 3D format, you have to make one edge layer. So edge layer takes the data from the multiple areas and give that layer to the core layer. So anybody from manufacturing here? Yeah, great. So manufacturing, if you see what are the horizontals, we know like these are there, but what are the verticals? So verticals are process control, then maintenance, then quality, then you can say some of the other functions also, audit function. So like if you have a very big ship, like if you have like core system as a SAP as a core system, or you have some document management or data management system, so you need some of the small ship to get this information to that big ships. So first layer is the edge layer where all the data is coming, then it will go to the core functions, the core layer, and after that it will go to the analytical layer. Then only the digital will start.
That's a wonderful explanation. Maitri, would you like to add on top of this as to what more should we have on the blueprint to be successful?
Sure, I can take a crack at it. Thank you, Ramesh, for a good setup there. I thought I'd ask a question to the audience, though, before I went forward, because Ramesh has talked a lot about, I think, what is foundational to actually making any kind of digital transformation, which is the data part. Are folks here interested in hearing about how in today's world we apply that lens from an AI first perspective? Is that what you're trying to get to? Any show of hands? Okay. So I don't know how many of you understand the difference between, let's say, Gen AI and Agentic AI. Anyone in the audience wants to take a crack? It can't be wrong. You can just make a start at it. Yeah, go for it, Sunny.
asked the wrong person.
No, that's okay. Here,
He has a PhD thesis on that.
you can take my mic.
Okay. In Gen AI, based on user prompts, the model would generate text, image, or audio,
Yeah.
or video as well,
Yeah.
right? Whereas in the case of agentic AI, you're building a level of autonomy within the agents. They are very outcome focused, and of course, you need to have the human in the loop as well to orchestrate all the agents.
Excellent. Great definition. So I think that's a very important aspect to consider as you think about transformation in your businesses. Because like Sunny rightly said, if you want an agentic AI first transformation, you have to understand what kinds of autonomy you want to actually deliver on. And oftentimes what we see even today, when people are using AI stacks, whether it is using existing models that is anywhere out there, could be Claude, Anthropic, Gemini, OpenAI, it doesn't matter. When you use these base models, and if you're ending up just doing automation versus autonomy, like Sunny said, you're not really being agentic. To be autonomous, you have to understand the decisions that your organization has to make. To make the right decisions and leave it in the hands of agents, you have to understand the security and the role of data and compliance that your organization has to follow. Then you decide, okay, how do I bake that into architectural design? And to build up on what Ramesh said, in order to actually make all of this happen, how do you now consistently say, this is the autonomous action that I want 2 or 3 sequenced agents to take before a human in the loop comes in and does any validation, verification, or approval? That's a function of feedback loop learning, right? So you cannot, in my opinion at least, and my experience, you can't just say, I'm going to take everything in this organization and make it completely autonomous. Clearly, a lot of us runs businesses where that is high risk and probably hits our revenue goals as well, makes us all very nervous, makes our boards nervous, so we don't want to do that. So in order to graduate through these cycles, the feedback learning loop is very important. So these are some like very abstract but important criteria to keep in mind as you try to make the shift. But again, what Ramesh brought up is very important, right? You can say, I have a lot of data, isn't that enough? Actually, that's not true. You need to understand the right kind of data, which is real time, because remember, your agents are acting autonomous in real time. There are very few situations where you can say, hey, I'm going to use agentic AI with using batch data. Then you're technically not doing agentic AI. I mean, you can stretch it a little bit and say here and there, yes. But really, if you think about it, you want to make decisions as a situation comes up, and then you want to move the system forward in that execution mode. And therefore, the real-time insight is very important. So in summary, if you want to think about it, what you're really trying to do with these kinds of transformations by using agentic AI is you're trying to do 3 things. You're trying to get to maximizing your speed, but not at the risk of making wrong decisions. Therefore, accountability is important. Accountability comes from how you build the autonomous nature of your system design. And the last part is which metrics do you care about as you go through the speed and accountability process? Because it's a wrong thing to say that, hey, if you use autonomous systems like this, you will actually increase revenue. Sometimes that is not going to be the case because your system now is going through a huge shift. You probably will see an increase in costs because you have to invest in the hardware, architecture, and other software systems in order to make that change. So you have to come up with better indicators than just your core business metrics in order to actually get there. So I'll stop here because there's a lot to think about in just these angles. But if you want to think about it at a high level, blueprint level, these are certain criteria I would recommend.
Really great points. I think what came out clearly was data, digital data, be it structured or unstructured. But then the important thing being this should be real time. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results you expect. So pretty interesting point. My next question to Shravanti is, can you talk about the trust paradox? And what I mean by that is sometimes you need to think trust or versus more autonomy. So can you shine some light on this?
Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Divya. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. I think that's a great question. I'm coming from a fintech background. We are sitting on years, decades worth of data. So for us, and we are a regulated company as well, right? So for us, it's very, very important. It's important to do things faster, but more important is to provide quality data because markets, people are investing on the numbers that we put out there, right? So it is extremely important to make sure the quality of the data, what we are doing is important. Over the years, I would say, we've been collecting data. It's not a new thing, but what we've invested in Lean. Do you guys remember Six Sigma, Lean? It was a fad few years ago, or trend, I would say, not fad, but. Few years ago when we did that, it was all very important to do the process automation. I think touching on what Ramesh and Maitri said, the underlying business core has been the same. How we do, faster, new technologies has changed, but the business knowledge and the decision making has remained the same. How fast, slow, or how we are doing it now with the agents doing it versus, but that logic has remained the same for us. Now, I think that what we are trying to do is, we are investing it. The client-facing stuff, we are very, very mindful, not releasing until we are really sure we get that straight through processing, with good accuracy, right? But when we look at systems internally, we deploy things, we check, and then we see how the agents are making decisions, making sure it is learning, taking actions. That's how our success criteria is also defined. How we are, it's a confidentiality, the scores that it's giving. So it's important to. For at least us, how we are, when you are putting it out, trusted data is important. People come to us as S&P Global because of our data. So it's for us to secure our revenues. We can't compromise on that. But we are slowly moving towards autonomous or agents and agentic AI and a lot of other data extractions which are extracting data and giving us a score where humans are always reviewing. But how can we remove that human out of the loop is something we'll gradually go there. But for us, it's always human in the loop is important for us.
Great points, Shravanti. I think another thing to also consider when we think about trust is, are you putting in sufficient guardrails so that the agent acts according to those particular guardrails and they're not taking actions outside of their purview. They are not doing wrong actions. So it needs to be built in, the guardrails, and also I think not just the guardrails, the fact that there are biases, there can be ethical things, and Salesforce is big time on ensuring that there is trust and there is ethics included when we build AI. So these needs to be baked in to your framework, how you build your systems.
More importantly, when should agents stop? I think those are the logics what we work on mostly. It's the most of the focus is when should the agent not do stuff, right? It should fail and bring in the human.
Right.
So check it before they wreck it.
Right. And if I think you made a very good point, so I'm going to reiterate what you just said. If anything is being asked of an agent that is outside of its guardrail limit, it should do a handoff, maybe bring in human in the loop. So that's a very interesting point. So I thought reiterating it would be something that would resonate with the audience. Maitri, you talked about success for a bit, but I do want to get into a little more detail. Can you tell us about how do you define success criteria? How do you measure ROI? And especially in the scenario where the software agent is taking action and it's not the human.
Yeah, I think it's a little nuanced by industry, but again, if I look at it at a system design level, I referred to this when I was previously talking. Speed is important, but in this case, if we're looking at ROI, then we want to say, what is the quality of decision making And by the way, when I talk about all this, I'm assuming that all of your other core metrics as a business are in place. So one of the things you don't want to do is you do these AI shifts and then you see no change in your core metrics. Then as a CIO or CTO, then you have to question and say, why did I bother making this investment? So it's no different from saying if I'm running a manufacturing business and I add 2 or 3 new assembly lines, did it make a difference to any of the core metrics I care about? So just like any investment, that is the first guardrail. And that is again a function of what you want to change and what you plan to build intelligence around. So assuming all that is in place, then when you get into the ROI from the agentic system, that's when speed and quality of decision making becomes important. And I think Vivek mentioned it, you know, a bad decision is, a single bad decision is worse than 1,000 correct ones, because that single bad decision can result in significant impact for some part of your business, can either create risk or security or compliance issues, and it can compound. In today's world, everyone is talking about the smallest mistake you make as a business, and then it just means you're not good enough for them anymore. So going back to what I was saying in my previous response also, then creating these system designs that allows you to put the right checks and balances on what do you define as quality of decision making is really a business specific understanding that you have to bring to bear. Your architecture then has to say, how do I apply that quality decision making evaluation and guardrails because of that evaluation? So I would say this is very important. The second is people are what we are trying to replace in some way. I'll get into the sum in just a second. I don't think it is that people are going to go away. This debate has raged hot ever since OpenAI released ChatGPT. I think it's a function of how we decide to reuse human skills and capabilities. One of the things I talk to businesses a lot about in the context of what we do at Google is we look at moving people from being manual investigators and researchers to becoming AI orchestrators. So your value then comes in, you know, like Shravanti was saying, when you have a human in the loop, what do you want to use that human in the loop for? So you want to use that human in the loop to validate, orchestrate, and take decisions that sometimes you don't want an AI to take independently. So when do you inject the human in the loop in order to balance these factors? Again, is a very fundamental relationship to what your core business is and how you want to run it. When you're a startup, you can afford to take more risks. When you're a company like SMB Global or like Salesforce, you probably cannot. So that also plays a factor into, you know, what you're trying to do. The third is actually learning. I mentioned this before as well. If you look at it in the context of base models today, like if you take the difference between Gemini, released by Google, and that, let's say, released by Claude or Anthropic, is the sheer number of users. So Google has a significant distribution network that is unmatched at the consumer level. Microsoft has a distribution model that is unmatched at the enterprise level. Claude, Anthropic, and OpenAI are trying to figure out how to get into the middle of all of this. But when you look into the future, these models will all start to look alike. So 10, 15 years ago, Azure was trying to say, okay, I've got to match up to where Amazon is. GCP was still not around. But look around now, all three are nearly equal, right? So I don't think it's going to take 10, 15 years. Maybe it's another 3 to 5 years. All the base models will be similar. So really, as businesses, your value is not going to come from that business model. Sorry, that base model. Your value is going to come from how you interpret the understanding of your business, choose to make it autonomous with the guardrails that I talked about.
I think that's also a very great point about how do you keep your competitive moat. So
That's
very
a
well
good
explained.
point, yeah.
I think we'll take one last question before we move on to the audience Q&A. In this world where we're moving towards, you know, digital-first agentic organization, it requires a lot of, you know, compute power, right? And as we think about building this infrastructure, how do we kind of balance this hunger for intelligence versus, our commitment to sustainability. So, Vivek, can you?
I can try to do some justice. See, as Maitri correctly mentioned, so culture primarily eats strategy for breakfast. When I say that, you just think about the mind, it's year 2026, and when we say that, the alpha population or the population which is just getting born behind the green gowns of the labor rooms, they are first handed over the iPads, then the doctor gives them congratulations to the parents, right? So in this kind of a scenario, we are again trying to have a kind of a fine balance. And when we say a fine balance, it would mean that yes, we are expecting intelligent insights. Yes, we are expecting instant answers, but from whom? We are expecting that from those AI or the agentic AI or the robots, because I come from a 230-year-old big Fortune 50 organization. People change organizations maybe 5 years in their career or similar. We do that every 3 months because we specialize in M&A and divestitures, and we go into that kind of a super profit venture, which is the highest in the global landscape. And we try to learn from that 223-year-old nice history that we started from making wines on the lake shore, move up to polymers, moved up to so-called lovely areas of learning from the Googles and the Microsofts and the Adobes of the world. We thought about going to Teflons, and then we thought, why not to have those agentic AIs whom we are expecting instant answers and nice philanthropic scenarios to come. But at the end of the day, we saw them sitting on cloud on those computers which are not owned by us, whereby we don't have trust. At the same time, they are run on fossil fuels, and that too also 24/7. So where the hell sustainability is there? Sustainability is there only when we are able to get that kind of a combination. So the nature is providing us a free lunch, but do we all as industry stalwarts have kind of control over our so-called appetite? And while I dare to say that, I also would like to mention we should own the unknown but thrive to survive. Then only that balance can maintain, because we are no longer in the era of 1950s. The Operation Sindoor has just gone 1.5 years back. The nice aspects of Mars and Mangalyaan have gone. Demand from BrahMos is going to anything. India, as a part of the BRICS nation, is going to be the one whereby each one of us would be the flag bearers for the digital first industries.
Ramesh, would you like to add more on that?
Yeah, Vivek beautifully told like how sustainability getting affected from this digital. So just wanted to add one very quick point. Like when we talk about the digital in any of the company, so sustainability talk about the reuse of everything, circular economy. So everything turn around that. So when we keep on saying we are reusing everything, even the smallest thing in the company you want to reuse. But when you talk about data, you are keep on doing the duplicacy of the data. Whenever you are making some ML model, whenever you are making some AI use case, so one set of data is there on edge, one set of data is there on core, and the same set of data you will take into the analytical layer, then you make the model, then keep that data dump there, and again when you need some another model, you will again fetch the data from the core and make another model. So this is also when you are storing data multiple times, same data duplicacy. This is also against the sustainability. So we have to focus on that. The architecture we need to make in such a way, like the data for the model should come from the one source, and if it is utilized in one model, that data can be able to utilize in other models also. So in that way, we can achieve the sustainability. And one thing I will just add into Maitri's comment, like she told about ROI is a success criteria. Now, like we have OpenAI and like multiple AI systems that are making our life easy. So I think the success criteria now should change from ROI to ROT. So return of time, like what time we are investing, like whatsoever time we are investing, we should get the quicker return. So ROI investment, anyhow, the people are doing, but how quickly you are getting the result, that is, you should focus on the ROT also. Thank you.
Well said. I think that was a really good takeaway. I would also add on the sustainability part. When we think about models, you don't have to solve all your use cases with the same model, right? Get the right size model to solve based on your use case. That could be one step towards, addressing the sustainability. So what I'll probably do is wrap up, and as you go back to your organizations, keep these three takeaways in mind. Data is foundational. I think some really good insights here. Digital data, structured, unstructured, in real time, is what will make you transition into agentic organization. The second one I would say is trust. Trust is the engine. You need to have the right guardrails in place. You need to build it into the system, into your frameworks. Human in the loop governance is something that you should plan for. The last one here is we talked about outcome. It should be outcome, not just the output, so measure your outcome. Some really interesting insights from the panel here. Measure quality and speed of decision making. It should no longer be just simple ROI. It should be ROT, return on time. So thank you so much, panel. Do we have time to take questions? So we would like to open it up to the audience. If there are any questions, the panel is here to take your questions.
So my question to the panelists, who should be the accountability when AI systems make wrong or biased decisions? Is it developer? Is it a model? Is it the business?
So you mentioned developer, business, and what is the middle one?
Business, model.
Business model or the developer?
Business, model, developer.
Business model or the developer. So primarily, sir, can I try? Correct. Maybe a quick anecdote about the lovely ant story. So ants, like the nice, hard-working organisms, are always the creators of the entire ecosystem. Like the way developers are the one which create the nice software and service industries. But when the time comes for the layoffs or the number-gumming games, whereby most of us are on the other side of the table, then even though we hire the big fours or the McKinseys and the Bostons of the world, then also it is the foxes and the zebras of the world who win there, and the developers and the ants who have to take an unfortunate hit back. So the board level decisions are actually taken thinking in mind not only the top line, but primarily what is good for the stakeholders, whereby the employees come at the last and the dividends have to be given at the topmost. But at the end, to summarize, it is only because of the ants and the so-called developers that the big organizations, right from my left and the right, who basically are able to run the show well. So let's protect the ants more and more.
Great. I would just like to add one thing, like, okay, you can make a best model in the world, but if the data is not biased, then only you can get the best result. So every time when you are making the model, just focus on the how clear, how accurate your data is. So the focus should be on data, not on the model. Model can be retuned, model can be made again. But if data is not correct, data is not clean, data is not biased, then you will not get the good model, good output.
I would like to add that organizations need to understand that there will be failures, right? The key thing is trying, testing, validating, and iterating. You may not get the right result or the outcome in one single go. It is important to validate and iterate until you are satisfied with the outcome and then roll it out. I think that is going to be key because failure will happen. Are we learning from it? Are we iterating? I think that is key. There is opportunity for one more question.
Yeah,
I would like to
just
go.
add to that, right? You know, when you're releasing to production, I think just taking the use cases which are, how is the risk appetite of the company as well? Some companies probably are not risk appetite, there must be very low. So I think it all bakes in. I think it's not easy to say, okay, developer is wrong or the business is wrong or who should take as I think business as a whole, you are adopting something, otherwise you're going to be dead because there's so much more competition. So I think it's a whole responsibility, accountability of the business and the leadership. Everyone in the organization have to feel that sense of responsibility.
Well said.
Yeah, Divya, I would like to ask one question. So one of the challenge it would be to consider is how to transform the legacy systems to AI enabled, and at the same time how to reskill the employees to be agentic AI aware, whatever, all those the latest stuff. So this is one of the challenge, and this should happen while keeping up the sustainable pace of the business and everything without impacting any of such things. So can you talk about on this particular subject?
Is it directed to someone? Is it?
Yeah, it could be anyone in the panel. I would like to.
Let me take a stab at it. I think what you touched on is how can we, so I'll take my example again. S&P Global, we have data analysts. Just in Hyderabad, we have 3,000 analysts. It used to be about 2-3 decades ago, it was primarily very manual, go through all the financial documents, collect the data, curate everything. But now we don't do that. What we've done over the years is we automated a lot of the tasks, right? It is all internal facing, not going out. So people have changed, adopted. One thing that we've done, our CIO actually made sure, irrespective of what technology is in trend, he in the last 10 years, I think we've started even before it's actually in vogue or in mainstream. He made sure all of us had that training. Our tech acumen in the company has increased. Just because there was essential learning, there's mandatory training that went in, very basic level, but at least all of us knew what AI was like 5 years ago. Just bringing that terminology into our work structure, right? So that really helped our people. 2 years ago, right after ChatGPT was launched, one of our team members, they started experimenting and built because we are regulated, we can't just go openly use, everything out there. So they built a small internal tool which mimics kind of ChatGPT. There's underlying models. We are mindful of sustainability because we also report on sustainability for the companies, right? So what they've done is built a tool, internal productivity tool, ChatGPT, whatever you call it. But what it has done is people, there are 40,000 people across the globe, and all of them, it's Spark, that's what we call it. Our ChatGPT is called Spark, and everyone has access to it. They just put now documents into it. It doesn't go out anywhere. We're not sharing our data. It's internal. They just curate the data. They write absolutely beautiful prompts, and which actually cuts their time. Internally, their productivity, they find this half an hour in a day additional time to learn something new. I know it's not everyone, at least majority of them, they actually influence others to do the same thing. So there's competitions that we run, so people can actually adopt and come back with new use cases to run the AI or the agents and all. So it kind of is helping us in that way.
So I'll try to answer the second part of your question, ma'am. So coming from the bad world of chartered accountancy and from the IT and the IM fraternity, I'll be blunt in saying, no business across the globe loves giving even an iota of training to any individual. It is the onus of that particular individual how far he or she is competent and emotionally capable, competent intellectually and capable emotionally to manage the coffee break, smoke break, Valentine break, Rose Day break, and XYZ other breaks, and move that into self-learning mode. We are paid more than enough to take care of the top line and the bottom line. None of the business tycoons have even an iota of a time available to do unless until the check boxes have to be taken care of from the lovely verticals whose first character starts with H, second we already know. So primarily, it is, as ma'am correctly mentioned, continuous learning, doing the projects and the assignments at the NIP start of your education, and keep on doing till the time you go to the graveyard. That is the answer to be sustainable, available, and competent enough every moment. Thank you.
I think that was wonderful. Thank you so much. This was a very phenomenal panel, so let's have a round of applause for them.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would request all of you to stay on stage and invite Sudhanshu sir to felicitate this panel. And thank you all the leaders for your such well-articulated insights, instances from your life. And Vivek sir, thank you for your truth bombs. Please, sir. Let's have a quick group photo as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. I see last benchers not clapping. Yeah, see? Thank you.